Tripoli is the largest city in northern Lebanon and the second largest city in the country. Situated 85 kilometers north of the capital Beirut, it is the capital of the North Governorate and the Tripoli District. Tripoli overlooks the eastern Mediterranean Sea, and it is the northernmost seaport in Lebanon. It holds a string of 4 small islands offshore, and they are also the only islands in Lebanon. The Palm Islands were declared a protected area because of the status of haven for endangered loggerhead turtles, rare monk seals and migratory birds. Even though the history of Tripoli dates back at least to the 14th century BCE, the city is famous for having the largest Crusader fortress in Lebanon, and it has the second largest amount of Mamluk architectural heritage on earth. With the formation of Lebanon and the 1948 breakup of the Syrian-Lebanese Customs Union, Tripoli, once on par in economic and commercial importance to Beirut, was cut off from its traditional trade relations with the Syrian hinterland and therefore declined in relative prosperity. Tripoli borders the city of El Mina, the port of the Tripoli District, which it is geographically conjoined with to form the Greater Tripoli conurbation. Names and etymology. Tripoli had a number of different names as far back as the Phoenician age. In the Amarna letters, the name D'Urbli, possibly a Semitic cognate of the city's modern Arabic name Arabilis, was mentioned, and in other places Alia or Walia are mentioned. In an engraving concerning the invasion of Tripoli by the Assyrian king Ashurnasirpal II, it is called Mahalatu Malata Mesa and Kesa. Under the Phoenicians, the name Athar was used to refer to Tripoli. When the Greeks settled in the city, they called it Tripoli, meaning 3 cities. Influenced by the earlier phonetically similar but etymologically unrelated named Urbli, the Arabs called it a variety of names, including the Princedom of Tripoli, the State of Tripoli, and the Eastern Tripoli Kingdom. In addition, the names Trablus or Atrablus and Tarablis al-Sham were used. The Crusaders settled in Tripoli for about 180 years and made it the capital of the county of Tripoli. The city was also simply named Tripoli. The city shares the same etymology, Tripolis, as its younger sister city, the Libyan capital Tripoli. Today, Tripoli is also known as Al-Fayha, which is a term derived from the Arabic verb fatha, which is used to indicate the diffusion of a scent or smell. Tripoli was best known for its vast orange orchards. During the season of blooming, the pollen of orange flowers is carried on the air, creating a splendid perfume which fills the city and suburbs. Hence the name Al-Fayha. Panoramic view. Climate. Tripoli has a Mediterranean climate with mild winters and moderately hot summers. Temperatures are moderated throughout the year due to the warm Mediterranean current coming from Western Europe. Therefore, temperatures are warmer in the winter by around 10 degrees Celsius and a bit cooler in the summer by around 7 degrees Celsius compared to most of Lebanon. Although snow is an extremely rare event that only occurs around once every 5 years, hail and sleet are very common and occur fairly regularly in the winter. Rainfall is concentrated in the winter months, with the summer typically being very dry. History. There is evidence of settlement in Tripoli that dates back as early as 1400 BCE. In the 9th century BCE, the Phoenicians established a trading station in Tripoli, and later, under Persian rule, the city became the center of a confederation of the Phoenician city-states of Sidon, Tyre, and Arados Island. Under Hellenistic rule, Tripoli was used as a naval shipyard and the city enjoyed a period of autonomy. It came under Roman rule around 64 BCE. In 551, an earthquake and tidal wave destroyed the Byzantine city of Tripoli along with other Mediterranean coastal cities. During Umayyad rule, Tripoli became a commercial and shipbuilding center. It achieved semi-independence under Fatimid rule, when it developed into a center of learning. The Crusaders laid siege to the city at the beginning of of the 12th century and were able finally to enter it in 1109. This caused extensive destruction, including the burning of Tripoli's famous library, Dar al-Ilm, with its thousands of volumes. During the Crusaders' rule, the city became the capital of the county of Tripoli. In 1289, it fell to the Mamluks and the old port part of the city was destroyed. A new inland city was then built near the old castle. During Ottoman rule from 1516 to 1918, it retained its prosperity and commercial importance. Tripoli and all of Lebanon was under French mandate from 1920 until 1943, when Lebanon achieved independence. Archeological Tripoli. Many historians reject the presence of any Phoenician civilization in Tripoli before the 8th century BCE. Others argue that the north-south gradient of Phoenician port establishments on the Lebanese coast indicates an earlier age for the Phoenician Tripoli. Tripoli has not been extensively excavated because the ancient site lies buried beneath the modern city of Elmina. However, a few accidental finds are now in museums. Excavations in Elmina revealed skeletal remains of ancient wolves, eels, and gazelles, part of the ancient southern portkey, grinding mills, different types of columns, wheels, bows, and an acropolis from the end of the Hellenistic period. A sounding made in the Crusader castle uncovered late Bronze Age, Iron Age, in addition to Roman, Byzantine, and Fatimid remains. At the Abu Halka area, refuges dating to the early and middle Stone Age were uncovered. Persian Tripoli became a financial center and main port of northern Phoenicia with sea trade and caravan trade. Hellenic Tripoli. Under the Seleucids, Tripoli gained the right to mint its own coins. It was granted autonomy between 104 and 105, which it retained until 64 BCE. At the time, Tripoli was a center of shipbuilding and cedar timber trade. Roman and Byzantine Tripoli. During this period, Tripoli witnessed the construction of important public buildings including municipal stadium and gymnasium due to strategic position of the city, midway on the imperial coastal highway leading from Antioch to Ptolemais. In addition, Tripoli retained the same configuration of three distinct and administratively independent quarters. The territory outside the city was divided between the three quarters. Arab Tripoli. Tripoli gained in importance as a trading center for the whole Mediterranean after it was inhabited by the Arabs. Tripoli was the port city of Damascus, the second military port of the Arab Navy, following Alexandria, a prosperous commercial and shipbuilding center, a wealthy principality under the Kutama Ismaili Banu Ammar emirs. During a visit by the traveler Nazir-I Khusrau in 1047, he estimated the size of the population in Tripoli to be around 20,000 and the majority were Alevists. Legally, Tripoli was part of the jurisdiction of the military province of Damascus. Crusader Tripoli. The city became the chief town of the county of Tripoli, extending from Jubail to Latakia and including the plain of Akka with the famous crack des Chevaliers. Tripoli was also the seat of a bishopric. Tripoli was home to a busy port and was a major center of silk weaving, with as many as 4,000 looms. Important products of the time included lemons, oranges, and sugarcane. It is curious to reflect that for 180 years, during the French rule, langue d'oc, the language of Provence, was spoken in Tripoli and a neighboring village, owing to the influence of a number of Provençal nobles and courtiers who came here. At the time, Tripoli had a heterogeneous population including Western Europeans, Greeks, Armenians, Maronites, Nestorians, Jews, and Muslims. During the Crusade period, Tripoli witnessed the growth of the inland settlement surrounding the Pilgrims Mountain into a built-up suburb including the main religious monuments of the city such as the Church of the Holy Sepulchre of Pilgrims Mountain, the Church Church of St. Mary's of the Tower, and the Carmelite Church. The state was a major base of operations for the military order of the Knights Hospitaller, who occupied the famous castle Crac des Chevaliers. The state ceased to exist in 1289, when it was captured by the Egyptian Mamluk Sultan Qalawun. Mamluk Tripoli. During the Mamluk period, Tripoli became a central city and provincial capital of the Mamlukara kingdom. Tripoli ranked third after Aleppo and Damascus. The kingdom was subdivided into 6 wilayas of provinces and extended from Jubail and Aguara mountains south, to Latakia and Al-Alorine mountains north. It also included Al-Hermel, the plain of Akka, and Hos and Al-Akrad. Tripoli became a major trading port of Syria, supplying Europe with candy, loaf and powdered sugar. The main products from agriculture and small industry included citrus fruits, olive oil, soap, and textiles. The Mamluks formed the ruling class, holding main political, military and administrative functions. Arabs formed the population base, and the general population included the original inhabitants of the city, immigrants from different parts of Syria, North Africans who accompanied Qalawun's army during the liberation of Tripoli, Eastern Orthodox Christians, some Western families, and a minority of Jews. The population size of Mamluk Tripoli is estimated at 20,000–40,000, against 100,000 in each of Damascus and Aleppo. Mamluk Tripoli witnessed a high rate of urban growth and a fast city development. It also had poles of growth, including the fortress, the Grand Mosque, and the river banks. The city had 7 guard towers on the harbour side to defend the inland city. During the period, the castle of St. Giles was expanded as the citadel of Mamluk Tripoli. The aqueduct of the prince was reused to bring water from the Rashin spring. Several bridges were constructed and the surrounding orchards expanded through marsh drainage. Fresh water was supplied to houses from the roofs. The urban form of Mamluk Tripoli was dictated mainly by climate, site configuration, defense, and urban aesthetics. The layout of major thoroughfares was set according to prevailing winds and topography. The city had no fortifications, but heavy building construction characterized by compact urban forms, narrow and winding streets for difficult city penetration. Residential areas were bridged over streets at strategic points for surveillance and defense. The city also included many loopholes and narrow slits at street junctions. The religious and secular buildings of Mamluk Tripoli comprise a fine example of the architecture of that time. The oldest among them were built with stones taken from 12th and 13th century churches. The characteristics of the architecture of the period are best seen in the mosques and madrasas, the Islamic schools. It is the madrasas which most attract attention, for they include highly original structures as well as decoration. Here a honeycombed ceiling, there a curiously shaped corniche doorway, a molded window frame. Among the finest is the Madrasa al-Bertasaya, with an elegant facade picked out in black and white stones and a highly decorated lintel over the main door. Public buildings in Mamluk Tripoli were emphasized through sitting, facade treatment, and street alignment. Well-cut and well-dressed stones were used as media of construction and for decorative effects on elevations and around openings. Bearing walls were used as vertical supports. Cross vaults covered most spaces, from prayer halls to closed rectangular rooms, to galleries around courtyards. Domes were constructed over conspicuous and important spaces like tombs room chambers, mihrab, and covered courtyards. Typical construction details in Mamluk Tripoli included cross vaults with concave grooves meeting in octagonal openings or concave rosettes, as well as simple cupolas or ribbed domes. The use of double drums and cornice squinches was commonly used to make transition from square rooms to round domes. Decorations in Mamluk buildings concentrated on the most conspicuous areas of buildings: minarets, portals, windows on the outside, and mihrab, qibla wall, and floor on the inside. Decorations at the time may be subdivided into structural decoration and applied decoration. Mosques evenly spread with major concentration of madrasas around the Grand Mosque. All khans were located in the northern part of the city for easy accessibility from roads to Syria. Hammams were carefully located to serve major population concentrations, one next to the Grand Mosque, the other in the center of the commercial district, and the third in the right bank settlement. Major buildings in Mamluk Tripoli included 6 congregational mosques. In addition, there were 2 quarter masjids, and 2 mosques that were built on empty land. Other mosques incorporated earlier structures. One of the most beautiful mosques is the Tainal Mosque, whose quiet design, splendid minaret and different cupolas make it one of the most interesting sights in the city. Mamluk Tripoli also included 16 madrasas, of which 4 no longer exist. 6 of the madrasas concentrated around the Grand Mosque. Tripoli also included a khanqah, many secular buildings, 5 khans, 3 hammams that are noted for the cupolas. Hammams were luxuriously decorated, and the light streaming down from the domes enhances the inner atmosphere of the place. Early Ottoman Tripoli. During the Ottoman period, Tripoli became the provincial capital and chief town of the Eyalet of Tripoli, encompassing the coastal territory from Jubail to Tarsus and the inland Syrian towns of Homs and Hama. The 2 other eyalets were Aleppo Eyalet and Sam Eyalet. Until 1612, Tripoli was considered as the port of Aleppo. It also depended on Syrian interior trade and tax collection from mountainous hinterland. Tripoli witnessed a strong presence of French merchants during the 17th and 18th centuries and became under intense inter-European competition for trade. Tripoli was reduced to a sanjak center in the Vilayet of Beirut in 19th century and retained her status until 1918, when was captured by British forces. Public works in Ottoman Tripoli included the restoration of the citadel of Tripoli by Suleiman I the Magnificent. Later governors brought further modifications to the original Crusader structure used as garrison center and prison. Khan al-Saban was constructed in the center of the city to control any uprising. Ottoman Tripoli also witnessed the development of the southern entrance of the city and many buildings, such as the Al-Mu'allaq or Hanging Mosque, Al-Ta'an Mosque, and Al-Tawba Mosque. It also included several secular buildings, such as Khan al-Saban and Hammam al-Jadid. An archival source, dated 12 Shaban 1088, can give the idea of everyday life in early Ottoman Tripoli. The reason why this document had been written down is that the Christian Yaqub, son of Ghanem, the monk in Balamand Monastery, Kora subdistrict, province of Tripoli, presented himself at the Holy Sharia Council of Tripoli and hired and engaged the Christian surgeon Nicholas, son of Yani, to extract his hernia on the right side in return for a fee of 10 piastres. After the hired has undertaken to extract the hier's hernia and treat it with ointments, the aforementioned hirer asked people to duly and legally bear witness that if the hirer died as a result of fate and Allah's divine decree because of his being treated by the hired. The latter shall not be held as guarantor for him, and the hirer has also relieved the hired from any responsibility for his death and blood money, and that the hirer or his heir after him shall not be entitled to any related claims made against the aforesaid surgeon, effected and written down on the 12th day of the holy month of Sha'ban of the year 1088. Witnesses: Maulana Sheikh Mustafa, may his grace be augmented; Maulana Sheikh Muhammad, scriber of the original copy; Muhammad Shalabi, interpreter; Hussein Buluk Bashi, Hajj Ramadan, chief court usher. Timeline 1400 to 1200 BCE. Recent discovery of pottery fragments. Evidence of late Bronze Age settlement. Historical written records mention the settlement of the Hattin tribe after migrating from Palestine. Later on they were known as Tripolitans. Greeks named the Canaanians the Phoenicians. 14th–8th century BCE, Phoenician trading station. Later on, Phoenicians started sailing to shores of northern Africa and South Europe and establishing cities in many Mediterranean localities. 550–351 BCE, Phoenicia became a province of the Persian Empire. 351 BCE, full independence proclaimed by Phoenician states from the Persian Empire. 358 BCE, Tripoli city coalesced into one entity, became the center of Phoenician confederation and neutral meeting ground for the governors of the three main Phoenician cities, seaports, Iradus, Sidon, and Tyre. 333 BCE, Alexander the Great in Phoenicia following victory over Persian king Odysseus. Arsenals of Tripolis harbor burned down. 323 BCE, Alexander's death and breakup of his empire into three parts, Macedon, Egypt, and the Seleucid Empire. Struggle between the Ptolemies of Egypt and the Seleucid kings of Antioch. Tripolis passed back and forth between the two powers. 64 BCE, Phoenicia and the rest of Syria became a Roman province. Tripoli, Tyre and Sidon granted privileges of self-government. Roman general Pompey beheaded Dionysius, the ruler of Tripolis, judged as tyrant. 37–36 BCE, Tripolis is a part of the donations by Mark Antony to Cleopatra. 117–138 CE. Under Emperor Hadrian, Tripolis was granted the right of asylum and assigned a naval command. It became an important religious center with a temple for imperial cult. From numismatic evidence it must have had temples dedicated to Astarte, the Dioscuri and Zeus Hagios. 551, city destroyed by earthquake and tsunami and rebuilt with the help of Byzantine Emperor Justinian I. 645–646, Muslim army laid siege to Tripoli. General Sufyan built a fort on Abu Samra hilltop to survey the city. Population fled to Cyprus. Tripoli captured and resettled with Persians and Jewish population. 646–1070, Tripoli subject to Byzantine incursions during the Umayyad, Abbasid and Fatimid rule aimed at the control of the coastal road. 1070–1109, Tripoli politically independent from the Fatimids under the Banu Ammar emirs, who built the famous Dar al-Ilm. 1099, beginning of a 10-year siege of Tripoli by Raymond of St. Giles, Count of Toulouse. 1103, beginning of the construction of the citadel. 1109, fall of Tripoli to the Crusaders and its rebuilding over Muslim town. 1268, the castle and the Crusadersburg occupied and destroyed by Baybars. 1289, fall of Crusader Tripoli to Sultan Almanza. Kaloan city site was transferred afterwards inland to the foot of Mount Peregrinus for protection against the return of the knights still on Cyprus and Rhodes. Arab Tripoli, a Medina built around inland citadel over Crusaderborg and along the banks of Qadisha River. 1516, Syria and Egypt fell to the Ottoman Sultan Selim I. 1535, signature of treaty by Suleiman the Magnificent and François I, King of France, giving France favors and privileges in the Levant. 1612, flood destroyed Mamluk monuments. 1623, FadelAdib attacked the forces of Pasha of Tripoli at Anjar. Tripoli fell to FadelAdib. 1798–1835, Mustafa Aga Barbar ruled as governor of Tripoli on behalf of the Ottoman Empire. Demographics. Tripoli's population has been estimated to be 500,000 and the large majority of these are Arab Sunni Muslims which make 80% of population. Lebanon's small Alawite community also mainly inhabits Tripoli, and the numbers are estimated to be between 25,000 and 30,000 people, mainly in the Jabal Mosen neighborhood. The percentage of Christians in the city is around 11%. Denominational makeup of the population. Main sites. Citadel of Raymond de St. Giles. The citadel takes its name from Raymond de St. Giles, who dominated the city in 1102 and commanded a fortress to be built in which he named Mont Pelerin. The original castle was burnt down in 1289, and rebuilt again on numerous occasions and was rebuilt in 1307–08 by Emir Asender Mikogi. Later the citadel was rebuilt in part by the Ottoman Empire, which can be seen today, with its massive Ottoman gateway, over which is an engraving from Suleiman the Magnificent, who had ordered the restoration. In the early 19th century, the citadel was extensively restored by the Ottoman governor of Tripoli, Mustafa Aga Barbar. The clock tower. The clock tower is one of the most iconic monuments in Tripoli. The tower is located in Altel Square, and was constructed by the Ottomans as a gift to the city of Tripoli. The clock tower recently underwent a complete renovation in 1992 with personal funding from the honorary Turkish consul of northern Lebanon, Subhi Akarian. Now the clock tower is again operational. Almanza, which is one of the oldest parks in Tripoli, is located next to the clock tower and is a very popular attraction. This clock tower was erected in 1906 to celebrate the 30th year of Abdulhamid II of the Ottoman Empire. Like the Jaffa clock tower and many others throughout the empire, hammams. When Tripoli was visited by Ibn Battuta in 1355, he described the newly founded Mamluk city, traversed by water channels and full of gardens. He writes, "The houses are newly built, the sea lies 2 leagues distant, and the ruins of the old town are seen on the seashore. It was taken by the Franks, but Al-Malik Ath-Tahir retook it from them, and then laid the place in ruins and built the present town. There are fine baths here." Indeed, the hammams built in Tripoli by the early Mamluk governors were splendid edifices, and many of them are still present until today. Some of the more known are Abid, Izzeldin, Hajeb, Jadid, Nuri, Oscar Niemeyer's Rashid Karame Fairground. Oscar Niemeyer was commissioned to design the International Fairgrounds of Tripoli in 1963, but in 1975, Lebanon's civil war interrupted construction of this modernist landmark. The 10,000-hectare site and its 15 buildings remain today incomplete concrete structures in our contemporary, labyrinthine times. The offshore islands. Tripoli has many offshore islands. The largest is called today the Island of Palm Trees by some, and by others, Rabbits Island. Palm Island's nature reserve are Rabbits Island. This is the largest of the islands with an area of 20 hectares. The name Araneb, or rabbits, comes from the great numbers of rabbits that were grown on the island during the time of the French Mandate early in the 20th century. It is now a nature reserve for green turtles, rare birds and rabbits. Declared as a protected area by UNESCO in 1992, camping, fire building or other depredation is forbidden. In addition to its scenic landscape, the Palm Island is also a cultural heritage site. Evidence for human occupation, dated back to the Crusader period, was uncovered during 1973 excavations by the General Directorate of Antiquities. The Barker Islands, locally known as Abdul Wahab Island. The island was leased to Adil Kirdana Abdul Wahab as a shipyard. Since the Ottoman rule until this day a well-known ship and marine contractor. It was also known as St. Thomas Island during the Crusades. It is the closest to the shore and can be accessed via a bridge that was built in 1998. The Bethlan Island. The island's name comes from a plant found on the island and used to make brooms. Some people claim that the name comes from the word blue whale that appeared next to the island in early 20th century. Fana Island. The island is 1,600 meters long and is the home of a lighthouse built during the 1960s.